This is a view of my studio from my kitchen window. It's about 25 steps from my back door. When you walk in, there are a set of steps that go down to my husband's shop. I have a slab roller, and I use that because I'm mostly a hand builder, rolling out slabs. Um, and I would tell you that the studio is pretty tidy right now, but you can see I cram things wherever I can find space, and if I can't find space, I ask my husband to build me shelves like he did here under the slab roller. I have multiple sizes of drywall board for putting slabs on. I also have central vac system, the ever-present tripod for reels and videos, a wheel that I use on occasion, but mostly it's stored like this. I have a couple of stainless steel tables. These were bought used from restaurant auctions, and my husband was kind enough to give me more horizontal storage by adding shelves. He also added wheels so that I can move them around as my needs change. This one has all of my glazes that I have mixed or bought, along with, various things for texture. I recently took a class on sculptural surfaces, and there were many assignments to that class, so these are the results. The course required that we mix and test a variety of glazes and application techniques, including painted surfaces, like these on the end. Over here is a closet my husband made for me that is on rollers, so when I change my mind about how I want to lay out the studio, it moves easily. Um, Rigid foam on the top, it comes in handy for things. I really don't like to throw things away. I never know when I'm going to use them. So in this closet, I keep, jars that I might use for glaze tests, tapes, glues, felt for the bottom of sculptures, things I don't really want to get dusty because that can happen. And then on the other side, more foam, paint materials, my toolbox. Down on the bottom are tools that I need for plaster if I want to make a mold. If I come back to the beginning, over this way, I have all of the ingredients one could, or at least almost all the ingredients one could possibly need for mixing a glaze. I have some reference books, particularly on the figure. Test forms are intermingled with my orchids. These were a bunch of pieces that I put together to test different finishes and colors. If I had one thing to change in the studio right now, it'd be the color of this countertop. I would prefer to have it white so it doesn't compete with the color and texture of any of my pieces. Some old work that I liked, but that broke, and I just don't want to sell it. Items from nature that give me inspiration, texture, uh, brushes, tools that I need. Down here is what we call reclaim. So as clay dries out, store it in a bucket, add water. With a few steps, you can get it back to workable consistency. And I hate wasting clay. So over this way is my sink. This was another purchase from a restaurant auction. And under the sink, you can see where the drain goes. That is a homemade clay trap because you cannot allow your clay to go into your sink trap or it will clog it, and that won't be good. I keep a bunch of extra buckets, and this is my scale. that I use for measuring the ingredients for glazes. My collection of stains for coloring glazes and washes, along with various other materials that I use on a pretty frequent basis. A few drawers, because you never know when you're going to need a plastic something, and more brushes. And I don't generally use these for ceramics, but you never know what you're going to need, so I have it all. Just a plethora of things that come in handy every once in a while. All my rulers and straight edges and squares. Over this way. Do have a mirror here because sometimes when I'm doing figurative work, I use myself as a reference. I was fortunate enough to have a bathroom put in so that I don't have to go into the house. Not that it's a long walk, but if I'm messy, I don't always like to go in. It's also great to use when I've been out in the yard gardening. This is a stack of clay that is yet to be used. Over here is what we call kiln furniture, and then pyrometric cones. These are used in your kiln. It's a good practice to use them for each firing, both to tell if you went to temperature and also troubleshoot if something may be going wrong with the kiln. If it falls over too far, it got too hot. If it doesn't fall over at all, it didn't get hot enough. This is what we call kiln furniture. It holds the shelves if I have more than one shelf. At this moment, I have 3 kilns, a baby kiln that I bought years ago for testing. Doesn't get used tons anymore because it's just not big enough. Then I have a medium kiln and a larger kiln. They're both the same width, but with the larger one, I can go a little taller with the work, as well as hold more things. Kilns need to be vented, and they require 220 electrical. So what happens is if I'm using one, I never run them at the same time. The exhaust from each one is interchangeable along with I plug or unplug depending on what I'm using. More items for firing. Kiln bricks, uh, stands. These things don't get used tons, but I have them in case I need them. Over here is my wedging table. So underneath the cloth is plaster, and wedging is used for many reasons. To remove air bubbles, to wake up the clay for use, aligning the platelets, and getting consistent texture and moisture. This is my main working table. I do have a chair and I have a mess underneath, which is essentially fabric, plastic for covering. And then if I need to turn something upside down, I have foam so that I don't ruin whatever's on the top of a piece. And this table, I asked my husband to make me some drawers, so he stuck those under there. This is a door that came off of somewhere along with the legs from a restaurant auction. Over this way are more tools and my cart that I use for extra table space, and it really comes in handy for various tasks. Over this way is my sanding area. It has an exhaust. It heads out that way. And I have my Fordham that I use and all kinds of. And this desk is modeled after a metalsmith's desk or workbench, and I have all kinds of different sanding implements. My grinder is over here. Various bits for my flex shaft with different profiles. Over here is just storage, some of my garden things, along with paint sprayer parts, additional filters, drill charging. This is a diamond sanding that I use to flatten things out. Over here is my glaze spraying booth. This was made by my husband, and it exhausts out also. So it's very loud. I'll show you. And it gets, all the glaze gets pulled out. The airborne glaze gets pulled out because breathing in glaze or ceramic dry materials is not good for the lungs because of the silica in it. I have some power tools under here. My air compressor for the glaze spring. Let's see. This is a new addition. I have a little easel set up because I'm working on a new body of work that I want to hang on the wall. So of all the things that my studio has, it doesn't have a lot of blank wall space. So I just painted myself up a scrap piece of drywall, and I'm not there with this work, but it's coming along. Over here's more shelving, more clay underneath, reference books. I subscribe to a couple of ceramic magazines, and I can't bear to throw any out. More test tiles, more. At one time I thought I wanted to go into metals, so I do have some metals tools that I keep in toolboxes underneath. I have some patina materials that I have used in the past when I've done mixed media type sculpture. And let's see. Oh, the last piece in the shop, the studio, is storage. Deep storage, things I don't use on a regular basis. A lot of test work, stuff I don't have the heart to throw out, but should. Lighting for taking images. That's my backdrop. When I want to take images, I roll it down, clamp it onto this cart. Can't think right now. And that's what I use, set up my lights, and that's what I use to take images. The windows are blacked out to help with white balance. These are my pro panels on their cart. I have extra pedestals over here. And I've had my husband build me just lots of shelving to hold work, to hold stuff. I have my tent, my electrical, a lot of stuff for showing over this way. I say boxes. I very rarely break them down. And right now they're in a pile. This is a pretty typical state of the storeroom. I always want it to be better, but I always fall short. New boxes that I bring to shows so I look more professional. Bubble wrap, booth display parts, as well as some gardening supplies. Back out in the main studio, I have an air cleaner up at the top there. When I'm mixing glazes or doing anything dusty, I do run it to clean the air. I think that's about it. I feel so very blessed to have such an amazing space and a husband who is knowledgeable and capable of executing my requests for troubleshooting equipment in the studio and overall being very supportive.